Today I want to share 10 things that are essential for Chinese learners. For the past 10 years, I've helped hundreds of Chinese learners reach conversational fluency. Especially for the past few years, I participated in a lot of learners' learning journey directly as their learning coach. And we explored a lot of their mindset blocks, confusing moments, a lot of struggles. And these are 8 lessons that I found that are essential for every language learner to know. They might be counterintuitive or they've never crossed your mind, but I believe that you're definitely gonna get something out of this video, so stay to the end. So the first thing is be aware of patterns. Everything is patterns and everyone is patterns. So throughout your learning journey, if you want to level up as a better version, a better learner, you need to observe and learn what your patterns are. Do you tend to be overambitious? Do you like to start things really intensely and through time you lose motivation? Or you might be fearful of speaking, making mistakes, or you tend to be stuck or overwhelmed by trying to make things perfect. These are patterns. So myself, throughout my career, I've coached hundreds of students directly. So the more students that I meet, the easier it is for me to recognize their patterns. So it's really powerful. So when you're aware of your patterns, you can know what tend to happen. You can actually predict and then prevent from getting yourself in a learning cycle that doesn't serve you. Speaking of this, I want to give you an example why this is powerful. Say, learning strategies. It's really important, right? So we tend to believe in what experts or authority figures say to us, especially someone with a lot of experience and they share a lot of tips online. There are a lot of people online do that, myself being one as well. So say, Zhifei, me, I'm teaching a certain strategy. There are contexts to it. Right? There's certain contexts and then it serves certain learners in their certain learning phase. So when you have that self-awareness of your own pattern, you can make a better decisions of certain strategy if this gonna serve you or not. You're not just gonna believe in everything that an expert say, an authority figure says. So being aware of your pattern make you a more powerful learner and help you make better decisions in judging what's going to serve you and what is not. The second thing is active versus passive. So this is a really fun aspect of language learning because a lot of things in language learning has 2 sides, the active side and passive side. For example, listening, right? When you are listening to a lot of Chinese input, you need to make decision like, are you passively acquiring, meaning you're just immersing your ears to this input, or you're gonna do active listening, you're gonna shadow what you hear, you're gonna pay attention to words that you know. You need to distinguish that. Another aspect is vocabulary. There are active vocabulary and passive vocabulary. When it's passive vocabulary, meaning you're gonna learn this vocab, but you don't necessarily need to learn how to use them. You just need to understand them when Chinese people say them to you. While for active vocabulary, they're most likely very high frequency. You want to try to learn them and try to use them because it's going to be handy. Also, when you participate in any class or in a group class, for example, you also have an active mode and passive mode because you don't need to speak all the time. A lot of people think, oh, I just need to speak. I need to speak. No. A lot of time you need to listen. You need to see what the correct version is. You need to listen to native like Chinese. That's a really important part of your language acquisition. So that's the more passive side. And then when you speak, when you actually practice and give your output, that's the active side. So a lot of people, they don't understand that language learning has these 2 sides. They think every vocab is really important, and they think, oh, when I listen, I have to pay full attention, I have to go into the study hardcore mode, or when I go to a class, I just need to speak all the time. It's not true. So to give you an idea how I guide my students for listening, 70% of the time you're doing passive listening, 30% active listening. Review vocabulary as if you were acquiring passive vocabulary. Don't focus so much on using them, but you gain active vocabulary through speaking. For classes, if your level is lower, say if you're a beginner or lower intermediate level learner, a more important thing is for you to have input in sessions. And when your level gets higher, the percentage of you giving output gets higher as well. The third thing is find a community. A lot of people think that they're a lone wolf, they don't need people. Yeah, I was one of them in my university study and in my master's, and I was like, I know that I'm a great learner. I don't need others. Whenever that I'm involved in a project, other people kind of slow me down. So I always had that mindset like, oh, I am totally fine by myself. Until after graduating, and I felt that it was really hard to keep up with the hobby or keep up with language learning because I didn't have any accountability. I didn't have any competition. I didn't have that environment. My progress was never measured as if it didn't matter to anyone. So it was like, am I improving or not? Or if I improve, why does it matter? So it was very hard to keep up with the consistency until a really interesting and natural thing that happened, which is I started having more and more students in my program. So I observed and I saw a really interesting thing happened among my students, which is they started chatting. They started have conversations on a personal level. And the next thing happened was that they started chatting outside of the session. And then they even started meeting up at first online and then in person. They were like naturally forming a support group. And they are like using this joint force to help each other to move forward. It was incredible. And also just last week, something happened in my group coaching session. One student shared his doubts about his goal. He found his learning goal was stupid. He wanted to create games because he was very interested in games, and he thought that this is so stupid. So many things happening. There's so many life goes on, a lot of things that need me, and I'm setting aside time for Chinese. And he was feeling really guilty of it, and he was judging himself for that goal that he had. And immediately 2 students jumped out in that session. They were like, no, this is not stupid at all. It's such an awesome goal. That is so cool. And I could see that immediate shift in him. He was like, what? Other people feel like that about my goal? And it was just me that I was feeling silly, but it's actually a really cool goal and people actually admire me. So it was so wonderful. I was witnessing that and the power that I was feeling among these students, and they were so powerful. I believe that student got out of the session feeling empowered, motivated, having clarity and feeling supported. And that's something that is really, really hard if you're doing it by yourself without a community. In this process, how I saw my community grew, and I realized how silly it is to be a lone wolf, or how awesome it is to win with everyone. So how powerful it is if other people are trying to win and they're telling you, hey, come with us, let's win together. So don't underestimate the power of being surrounded by like-minded people and sharing a similar journey. So the fourth thing is quit working hard. Sounds counterintuitive, right? So this is how we're taught the whole life. Work hard and study hard, right? But what if I tell you that you should play? You should just have fun. And Chinese learning is about that. And then you actually learn so much more. You can go so much further if you just have fun with it and you just play like a kid. It's a really new concept, and it took me many years to realize that. At first, when I was a Chinese teacher and I taught in a way that it was like, you should study, otherwise you don't have results. It definitely served the students in a way. But then when I explored even more, and when there are more research that comes out to argue that language learning is different and we acquire the skills in a very differently than how we understand in a traditional classroom. So imagine a feeling that you are actually flowing to your learning goal, and I really love this sentence. I'm gonna say it again. You flow to your learning goal. You're not forcing it. Because some people feel that they need to challenge themselves in this learning journey and they don't listen to their intuition. Listen to your intuition. It tells you this material is too difficult for me. This material, this method exhausts me. It doesn't serve me. It tells you a lot of things and it guides you to methods or materials that actually inspire you. A lot of students that they come to my program and before that they've never listened to like real life conversations in Chinese, and then they were like, oh my god, and this is Chinese learning? I can just listen to awesome conversations, podcasts at my level? This doesn't feel like studying. It was like, the feeling, that's the right feeling. And you can ask yourself, what exhausts you? What make you feel that, again, I need to do that again. Oh, learning Chinese again. Oh my god, I don't want to do it. So ask yourself that question. It's gonna help you see what is actually making you feel, what is actually creating negative association. Ask yourself that question. You can even write down a list and you're gonna see what you've done have not served you or have hurt you more than it served you. I'm sure that learning like drilling grammar, or practicing a lot of vocabulary or just memorize it, it serves you in a certain way. But then is it hurting your confidence? Is it hurting the fun you have? Is it hurting your relationship with Chinese learning? So quit working hard. And I think it's a very new concept and most learners don't feel it until I see how my students are just having fun and they were telling me every few weeks, they were like, my listening improved. Jeffrey, I can talk more now. I can understand people. I can say more things now. It really doesn't have to be in a hard work mode. And it's very different than what we're taught in traditional classrooms. And I remember in my master's as well, when my professor forced us to do a certain task and the whole class was like crying for help. And we were asking her, we were like, can we do something else? This is really boring. We really don't want to do it. And she insisted this would be helpful, which is partially true, And she asked us, because we were a bunch of Chinese students, she asked, are you guys hardworking? Because I heard that Chinese people are hardworking. Are you responsible? And we would say, yeah. And she was like, then you need to do it. So in traditional classrooms, at least the education system that I was exposed to never told us that we need to have fun. We need to play. And Chinese learning is just fun. It's not work. And until you can shift that mindset, it's gonna change everything. If you're able to change that mindset, it's gonna change everything. The fifth one, all your flaws are your advantages, and vice versa. There's no one-sided thing. You can look at the same thing with totally different perspective. Say, if you're a person that struggles with consistency, it's just really hard for you to put aside time every day and to learn Chinese, right? Then when you're doubting yourself and you're really struggling looking at it as your flaw, there's a totally just different perspective or message that you can get from it. You can actually learn that you work much better in an intensive environment, or you're a person that tend to focus for long hours rather than managing that time. Another example, vocabulary learning. If you're a hard worker and when you're serious about acquiring vocabulary, this sounds like an advantage, right? Also be careful about that, because it could also say that you're not being too selective. When you want to take it all, you're not choosing, you're not selecting, right? Which means you might not be prioritizing. You might not focusing on the important thing because you're just grabbing everything. So there are always two perspectives of a certain thing. Skills that you're proud of may reflect things that you need to be careful about. And flaws that you see could be reflecting a beautiful, beautiful characteristic of yours. So it's great to be aware of this. When you see two sides of one thing, it's less likely that you beat yourself up or you think that you're just useless, because you can see the good side of it. And when you're able to shift perspective and use a more helpful perspective, for example, when you see a certain flaw of yours and you see, what's so good about me in this? What is it trying to tell me? You can actually use it to find better ways to help yourself. In this way, you're gonna grow into a better learner, a more complete learner, a learner that has their strength, but also aware of things that they could avoid. So I want to share with you a story. I have a really bright student, and he has a PhD, and he's outstanding worker in his company, and he is a master with flashcard. He even created his own app, and I see that strength being so powerful. I was like celebrating the strength with him, and I was asking him, what do you think that could potentially happen that doesn't help you that much? He immediately recognized that his passion for flashcards may prevent him from exploring other helpful things like listening to comprehensible input or practice in speaking that much. So I was encouraging him to recognize his light, and his wonderful, he could just shine, and also be aware that things that he needs to take care of because of this powerful strength that he has. The sixth thing is to find trustworthy people to help you with your learning. I find myself repeating this a lot because I talked a lot about it on Instagram. So I'm gonna keep this part short. So when you are not serious about it, you kind of go back and forth with it, or to learn or not, it doesn't seem to matter that much. Eventually, if you're not sure if it's something that you really want to do, you might not take it so seriously, and with time maybe you don't get good results, and that's just natural because you didn't take it that seriously, right? So then you might think Chinese is impossible for me. Oh, Chinese is so hard. And I've heard so many people talking about this, and this is purely limiting belief, and I think there are a lot of ways to make Chinese learning fun and easy. Besides that, hiring people that have experience using good methods, or they have helped other people reach conversational fluency to help you, it can help you save years of life. So eventually I think this question lies on the life quality that you want, and everyone is free to choose the life that you want to live. And who am I to tell you how to live your life, right? I'm just saying that I see people who reach fluency in 1 year or a couple of years with help and with of course the work that they put into. And I also see learners that come to me having learned Chinese for 20 years and still struggle to speak. So imagine if this person actually chose a really different path and reached conversational fluency 18 years earlier. How does that affect them interacting with Chinese people, understanding Chinese culture, traveling to China, making connection with Chinese people? It makes a big difference. Of course, it really depends on if you're serious about it, if that goal matters to you, if that's the life that you want to have. If that's something that you want and it's a life quality that you desire, I'm an advocate of investing in your education, because you can make the money back, but you change the past. You can't change the past, and the connection that you're able to make, the life quality that you can live, is something invaluable. The seventh thing that I want to emphasize is to celebrate. I've served hundreds of students among these years, and then we tend to focus on problems. That's what I've seen. It's just human. We need to survive throughout hundreds of years, and we were in survival mode. We needed to look out for things that could potentially put us in danger, or problems that we need to fix, right? So a lot of times I ask a student, what can we celebrate about you today? And sometimes they feel really weird about this question. They're like, it's just a normal day. I don't have anything to celebrate with you. But then the more I ask about it, and I ask about this every day, every time I see them, the more they're able to spot small things that was actually worth celebrating. And the more they're able to get their focus out of the problem, but to appreciate the small things they've done, the small achievements that they've had, the more they're able to be grateful for themselves or the supports that they have. And it might sound like a really, really small thing, but with time, it changes who you are. When you try to doubt yourself, there would be a muscle that you've trained that jumps out. It's a little weird, muscle jumps out, but a voice that jumps out and tell you, no, I can celebrate the fact that I did that yesterday, or I can celebrate this resource that I have that a lot of learners don't. And it really helps you see a fuller picture of what you're actually facing and make problems don't seem that scary. The last thing that I'm about to share is something that I'm most excited about sharing. Chinese learning is not your goal. Being fluent is not your goal. It's always your tool. Even if you're total beginner, the moment that you start learning Chinese, it becomes your tool. I've published some total beginner videos. If you don't know anything about Chinese, you can still understand them. So don't tell me that Chinese is not already your tool. And this is really important because it's telling you that you don't need to speak perfect Chinese. It's already your tool. And I know a story, a girl who didn't speak perfect Chinese, but she was the only Chinese speaker on the plane from Moscow to Shanghai, and they needed an interpreter to help a doctor to help a person that had a heart attack. Her Chinese was not perfect, but thank God that she learned Chinese. Or if you have spouse that is Chinese, or if you have family that only speaks Chinese, and even if you speak imperfect Chinese and you make a ton of mistakes, when you communicate with them, it's way beyond the language. It's the connection that you try to have with your family. It's the respect that you're trying to show to them. It's the love that you show to them and to their culture. And even if you don't speak perfect Chinese, you can already explore this big country, China. There's 1.4 billion of friendly Chinese people that would love to talk to you and would praise how good your Chinese is. It's always your tool, even if you make mistakes, even if you feel uncertain, even if your Chinese is not perfect. It's gonna take you somewhere. It's gonna take you to explore a whole dimension, a whole different culture, a whole different perspective of life. And it's the life quality that you get to have. It's a totally new person that you can have using this tool. So Chinese is your tool. Don't let the voices in your head that prevent you from exploring things with Chinese. You might think that, oh, I can't do that. I can't go to China because I don't speak perfect Chinese, or I'm not that fluent. You really don't need to be that fluent. It's always your tool. It's just a certainty that you want to have. It's not about how good your Chinese is. So I said a lot of things. These are things that I don't usually have chance to share with the public. So I'm really grateful and I feel good. I feel like I was sitting here and chatting with some friends. So I'm very grateful to be able to share that, and I definitely hope that this serves you. If you watch this video until this point, you might have something to reflect on. If you are curious of learning Chinese, if you're curious of anything that I mentioned, the program that I offer to help people to reach conversational fluency, feel free to contact me. The best way is still through Instagram. It's easy, very easy to talk to. If you don't have Instagram, I highly recommend you download it to talk to me or my team on Instagram, because I also give out incredible freebies to help you have more guidance. Drop me a DM of 612, because we usually take students to conversational fluency from 6 to 12 months. So when we receive your message, we can have a conversation and we can explain to you what we do, how we help students, what are the methods that we use, how we structure the program, and you can see if that's something that's gonna serve you. If not, we're also gonna point out the best alternative for you. At the end of the day, the most important thing is for you to flow to your learning goal, to enjoy this journey and to have so much fun with this tool, Chinese, that you already have, and to expand your life. I wish you all the best. See you next time.